time escaping reality, with my mom's sickness, my dad being absent from the home. So we started gang banging. We had an uncle who was from the gang that I was from, and his lifestyle was appeasing to us, and we knew we had easy access to whatever he wanted because he was an OG. He was well respected. He had the drugs, the gangs, and the cars and all that stuff. And because of who he was in the gang, me and my brothers would have been easily accepted. Actually, we were easily accepted into the gang. And we went in there just, again, kind of get my back at my dad, but at the same time, to have a little bit of fun, being brought up with my mom's sickness. And that's a whole different time, bro. We can talk about that maybe in another interview. But getting away from all that stuff, my mom's demon possession, her sickness, her multiple attempts of suicide that we caught her, and getting away from all that. So when we went to the gangs, we went just to get away and also to hurt my dad. But little did we realize that we were going to be drawn into it as deep as we went into it. A bunch of guys, man, and a lot of them living in that lifestyle. It became a part of who you are, and in the times that I was gangbanging, I lost a lot of my friends, and that started to develop within me. I started developing a hate, a vengeful heart, wanting to, because these homies became family, And so when they were dying left and right, and if you guys remember the history of the early 90s, there was a peace treaty that was going on.
Right.
And within that peace treaty, our gang decided not to go along with it. So we ended up getting what is called the green light. You guys are familiar with that. And a lot of the gangs around in LA came down at us. And we lost that one year about 17 of my friends from gang violence because it was like open target, man, open season, go and get them. And we were losing homeboys left and right. And little did I realize, like I said, because of all that was going on, I was getting more involved into that lifestyle. And when I least suspected, it was who I was. And the same time, you had my dad on the other side who was trying to reach us. And he came to a point in his life, where he pretty much abandoned religion. He left Christianity. And he told us, he told us that what he told God was this, if my sons are going to end up going to hell, then I want to go to hell with them. I'm going to go to hell with them. And and in his way of thinking was that if he can kind of join our type of lifestyle, the party life, the drinking, the smoking, and all that stuff, then maybe there can be a connection. But he didn't know that there was issues that we still had to deal with in regards to us being molested. So anyways, but in my dad's attempt, he realized that it wasn't working out. So my dad decided to go back to the Lord. And in this time, we were already heavily involved in gangs, bro. So when he tried to get us back to come back to church, I remember the day, I was up there in my room, and he went up and he pretty much said, all right, Dave, let's go back to church. And I was like, I ain't going to go to church, Dad. And he said, Dave, let's go back to church. And I said, I'm not going back to church, man. And then he's like, you know what, you're going to go to church. And he started getting frustrated. And out of his frustration, he disrespected my gang. And of course, being a menso, I told my dad, man, don't you ever disrespect my value again. And I actually threw blows with my dad. And I can tell my dad didn't really want to hit me, but he was just still trying to control me. But in the moment, in that heated moment, what he did is he grabbed me and he brought me close and he told me, stop it, dude. Don't you know what you guys are doing? He goes, I remember him telling me, man, I love you guys, man. I don't want you to go to hell. And that got me angry, bro, because I didn't want to hear him. I mean, all this time prior to that, we tried to come to him and he rejected us. And now him telling me that he loves me, it kind of triggered something within me. And I remember I got upset with him and I pushed him and I told him, crying and everything. Of course, I was just a mocoso, man. I was like 14, 15 years old. And I remember pushing him away and telling him, I don't want you to ever tell me you love me again. I hate you and, screw you and God, whatever. And I remember I left that day and I never even thought about it. I didn't think about how much my dad was hurt or not. But we left. And of course, my dad still tried to reach us. He wasn't going to give up. And I remember one day I ended up going to jail, camp and all that stuff. And one of the days when I was in there, my dad moved us out to Rialto. So when we got out of jail, you know, we can be as far as we can from LA. But you know how it is, man. We don't really care about all that stuff. Distance wouldn't keep us away from the gangs.
Right.
But when we were out there, I remember I had one of my best friends. His name was Henry. We called him Gumby. Gumby was my crime partner. He was my blood brother. We would say, you know, I did everything with him and you know, party with him, gangbang with him. He was my road dog, man. But when I was busted, he developed a good friendship with my dad. My dad hired him. My dad was a foreman for a company. He hired him. My dad liked him. He was a hard worker. So when I got out, my homeboy was living with me in Rialto. And a few days there into me being released and everything, you know, he had a conversation with me, man. But well, here's one thing I want you to know. When we were out there, remember I shared with you about my mom's sickness?
Yep.
Well, when I was out there, my mom came up to me and my brother and pretty much told us that my dad was cheating on my mom, man. And literally I realized that she was making it up. But now, not back then. And I remember I got so upset, man. And I called my dad and I told my dad, you know, if you don't, you know, I need you to come home. And my dad was like, for what? And I go, you need to come home, punk, you know. And my dad's like, hey, calm down, David. I go, no, Charles, man. I told him, you know, you're not gonna do this to my mom, you know. I told him, but watch when you come home, I'm gonna kill you, you know. And I disrespected my dad as you know, like any foolish kid would do. And my dad didn't take me serious, but I remember my dad came home, and when he came home, he opened the door. I rushed him with the 2-barrel shotgun. My dad literally fell to his knees and he was crying, begging. I was like, you little punk, I'll kill you right now. Who do you think you are, trying to disrespect my mom like that? And so forth. And I say that I share this story because I want to share about my best friend. Well, my homeboy Gumby walked in from behind him. And when he saw that I had the gun over him, because I was this close to shooting my dad, you know, because I was so angry at him. But my homeboy Gumby reached out, grabbed the gun from me, and he wrestled it from me. He took it from me and he tells me, what are you doing, dude? Are you stupid or what? And I go, Charlie, homie. I told him, I'm not going to let my dad, you know, leave my mom like that. He's a punk. What do you think he is? And I'm over here cursing my dad, and my dad's literally crying and breaks my heart, man, looking back now. But I remember my dad said, you know, your mom is sick. You know, your mom is sick. And I remember just telling my dad, look, if you ever leave my mom, man, I'll kill you, man. And from that point on, you know, my dad lost, you know, I already knew he had no control of us. But I remember it was within that week and a half or 2 weeks that I had gotten out, that my homeboy Gumby came up to me. And this is when I started, you know, I heard someone actually invite me to church other than my tia. But he came up to me and he says, hey, Dave, he's all like, what's up, bro? He goes, you know, I was talking to your mom and she told me about hell, you know? And I was like, tell you about hell? He goes, yeah, man. He goes, dude, that's crazy, man. He's all like, I will hate if something happens to us, because a lot of things was going on in that day. As I mentioned, early 90s, gangs was crazy. We had the green light. And he tells me, look, man, I would hate if one of us ends up getting killed and we end up in hell, man. He goes, hey, carnal, let's not go to the neighborhood. And I was like, bro, don't tell me about that whole God thing. He goes, nah, for real, homie. I go, nah, dog. You know, I told him, I don't want to hear it, man. I just got out, dude. He's like, come on, let's just go to church. And I was like, what? Are you serious, dude? Go to church? I don't want to go to church, man. Get out of here. He's like, no, come on, dog. Let's just go out to El Paro, you know, do me that favor. So I was like, after a while, I was like, all right, man, I'll go to church with you, man. I said, but here's the thing. Let's go to the neighborhood. And on Sunday, I'll go to church with you, man. So he said, all right. So that night, we ended up going to the neighborhood. It was a Friday night. And again, things were still heated up in the neighborhood. And while we were we're going to pick up some girls and then head out to the beach. But he wanted me to stop by where the homies were so we can pick up a sarape. And I remember, you know, taking them over there, and then afterwards we picked the sarape. We ended up going back. No, actually, no, we didn't pick up the sarape. We passed the street where the homies were with the sarape, and we were going to make a U-turn to come back to pick up, you know, the sarape, where we were met by rival gangsters, man, and they kind of drove up right next to us. Some of the guys in the car recognized who I was because I was busted with them. I can hear them say, hey, look, that's David, but, you know, they call me by my name. And when I heard that, my home, because we were literally like this, the windows were down and everything, and I can hear him, hey, that's David. And my homeboy Henry tell me, Pelate, you know, take off, homie. And so when I look, I can just see those dudes pulling out, you know, a rifle and a 9mm or a 45, one of those. And you know, when you try to press on the gas, you know, the wheel starts spinning and it doesn't really connect with the ground. So the car is just kind of like doing this kind of thing. And I can just hear the gunshots, bro. Boom, 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 right? And I was able to, to take off. And when I look back, my best friend was hit twice in the head. I remember freaking out because that was my best friend.
Was that Gumby?
Yeah, Gumby. I remember driving my homeboy to the neighborhood. I jumped out of the car, and the homies ran up to their car, and I was like, dude, they just shot, Gumby, man. I remember my brother ran. He opened the door. My homeboy fell off of the car. They had to pick him back up. My brother got in the car. They drove him to the hospital. And from that point, of course, my mom was going crazy. And I remember driving to the hospital, calling my dad. I said, Dad, you got to come. They just shot Gumby. My dad somehow made it like in 30 minutes from Rialto to the hospital where we were in. We go up and, they finally kind of stabilized him. I was able to go into the hospital. I see my homeboy there, and he had, two gun wounds in his head. And I remember just saying, hey, Gumby, don't die, homie. Remember what we were talking about. You can cry out to God right now, because I remember I grew up in Christianity. I knew about heaven and hell. But I remember saying, crying, telling him, come on, homie, don't die, please, man. I don't want you to go to hell and all this stuff. And my uncle, Cuco, was a Christian. So I kind of grabbed my uncle. I told him, tell him about God. I know he's there. And so, I walked out, and, he shared the gospel with him, and he prayed with him. But he was kind of like not there. He was like kind of coma type of thing. And finally, we were just waiting. And finally, the doctor comes out and says, I'm sorry, we lost him. He actually lasted about a week, man. On that life support. But, they finally came out. They told us that we had lost him. And I got angry, bro. I was like, screw God. How can you kill my homeboy after he was trying to take me to church? And,